All right, today we witness probably the most staunch warning in history. Nigel Farage, the leader of Brexit, here testifying to our Congress at the invite of Jim Jordan in a staunch warning of the detriment of censorship and the loss of what free speech leads to.
I come from the land of Magna Carta. I come from the land that gave us the mother of parliaments, and it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into.
We've covered a ton of examples of people being arrested for praying, posting online, or for simply saying, "I love bacon." I mean, aside from the EU censorship laws, in the UK, under the 2023 Act, the Online Safety Act, they have completely eroded free speech, criminalizing native citizens for simply voicing any concern about mainly policy or the immigrants that are not respecting UK culture. And these provisions in that bill are where it gets really interesting. Here, this is from gov.uk, some of the most concerning things that are actually being criminalized there. Here, look at this. Under priority content, bullying, abusive, or hateful content. And there's a few other things in there too. But if you think this sounds reasonable, no, we should stop that. If you like this idea, pay attention.
I don't doubt for a minute they're good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with those good intentions.
Look, if you think this will keep you safe or unoffended or make you more free or in any way enhance your life, you are completely ignorant of history, and you should never be allowed anywhere near governance, okay? But second, let me tell you why this is a horrible idea and how it always results in less freedom. Because it's all about who gets to decide what is bullying, abusive, or hateful content. We saw this here in America under COVID when anything the left didn't like was considered misinformation, and then they used emergency powers and government institutions to shut down free speech. Some free speech that now many people had wished they probably listened to today over foolish mainstream narratives around vaccines and masks and shutdowns. It's all about who is controlling what is called misinformation or hateful or dangerous or whatever. But in Great Britain, you don't just get shut down for it. They don't just take down the post. They actually throw you in jail for things that oppose political parties. Think about that. Even if they're true. Don't believe me? Here, look at this. Here's one of thousands of examples. James Harvey, a 22-year-old journalist, was arrested 5 days after attending an immigration protest where he allegedly said, "Deport them, send them home," and he called them, or allegedly called them, filthy foreigners. He's currently facing a trial this month, facing over 2 years in prison after being held and interrogated where they seized not only his stuff, but his girlfriend's electronic devices too. Ladies and gentlemen, scholars and even rebels, that is what happens when you give up your guns. This is what happens when you don't have a First Amendment that can't be preserved because you don't have a Second Amendment. You see, our founding fathers, they didn't come back from a hunting trip. They came back from liberating a nation from the exact oppression that Britain is seeing right now. That's why we have these things. We put in our Bill of Rights altogether to stop what you're seeing in the UK from ever happening here. Nigel is trying to warn the world of this. Can't say it in the UK because they'll go to jail. Because the danger is, again, who is defining what is harmful, hateful, or bullying, because they can declare anything they want as harmful, hateful, or bullying.
If you're opposed to illegal immigration on a mass scale and the huge cost to the taxpayer and the risk to our communities, then and if you like the flag, our national flag, then apparently you're far right.
So that illegal immigration issue that was very informative to the election in 2024 in America, the same thing is happening in Europe? Is that accurate?
It's a very similar argument in many, many ways, and therefore the definition of far right, I think, now applies to about 2/3 of the British population.
So I think...
Yeah, and how long before they call it violence attributed to the far right, of course. And they criminalize it like they are now, essentially criminalizing an entire political party. Think about it. If you think this can't happen, they almost did it here.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
And if you're shaking your head saying, how could this happen? How did we get here? Because the modern left still has zero problem with what even the UK is doing.
There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain.
Oh, really? And the current leaders in the UK are no different.
The honourable member for Clacton is not here representing his constituencies in the house that he was elected to. No, he's flown to America to badmouth and talk down our country. And worse than that, Mr. Speaker, if you can believe it, he's gone there to lobby the Americans to impose sanctions on this country which will harm working people. You cannot get more unpatriotic than that.
He's referring to Nigel's testimony today. Instead of ensuring, Keir Starmer, instead of ensuring his people freedom of speech and legitimate concerns about being overrun with migrants, Keir Starmer, that guy right there, is criticizing a fellow member of his parliament, Nigel Farage, for coming here to America, just like they did during World War II, to beg for help to ensure freedom for the people of the UK who he represents. To beg for our help to stop them from making it a law that doesn't allow the criticism of a religion that openly wants to take over their country and impose wildly oppressive values.
But my worry is it may get worse, if I may quickly.
Yep.
Because the Labour government now are intending to pass a law that has a definition of Islamophobia. They're intending to put that into law. And that effectively will mean that criticism of a religion, mocking of a religion, would become an offence.
Yep. The UK right now is attempting, in some weird liberal assent to appeasement, wants to prevent criticism of a religion that thinks it's acceptable to take underage brides, oppress women, and deprive non-Muslims of rights. You see in the UK right now, you already can't have an honest debate about real issues. You're never going to solve anything, because facts and data and statistics either become illegal or suppressed. Difference of opinion, if you're in the minority in Great Britain, it's become a crime, which, by the way, is in fact how a democracy works. So when the left says, oh, we're protecting democracy, you better listen to them, because in a democracy, the majority rules. Whatever the majority thinks becomes a law. The majority doesn't want you to say this or say that. Well, then the minority can't do it. The majority wants to take the land of people who, let's just say, don't convert to Islam. Well, they can do that in a democracy. The majority wants to take underage brides, impose Sharia law, mandate burqas for women, whatever. In a democracy, they can do that. The minority has no say. And with Muhammad being the most common name in Great Britain for the last 2 years running, that is what people in the UK are rising up against. They're terrified of this. The idea that their culture is about to be criminalized and extinguished, and people like Keir Starmer don't see it. It can and is, in fact, on track to happen. That is a fact. It's not my opinion. If you think I'm full of it, I'd refer you to the story we did yesterday, where a man tweeted something critical about immigration from outside the UK, outside the country, and then was arrested upon arrival. Now, see, the modern left here in America loves to impose all these restrictions that they like when they're in charge, and then they sell it as some utopia of tolerance and acceptance, and we're stopping people from hurting people's feelings. But all of a sudden, they don't like it when they lose power, and they scream about their rights. Rights are only enshrined in a constitutional republic like we have here, where no matter who is in charge, we all have certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The right of free speech, property rights, representation, and so many more. As you see, look, as you see in Britain, the government will take those away in a second in the name of whatever their political whim is, just to maintain power, unless the people have the power. And that is why the most important right is to own guns, because the government should fear the people. The UK government doesn't fear its people. I mean, it should, because I think they're on the verge of a revolution again. Look, the good people of Britain right now are fed up. They're seeking the same constitutional republic we fought them to get 250 years ago, ironically enough. We need to let this be a warning to our own liberal tendencies here in America. The UK is where Democrats lead us to. And what worries me the most, how many times we've seen Europe's policies come to America and become our policies 5 to 10 years later. Socialized medicine. Now, over there, you wait 3-4 years to see a doctor, yet the majority of the Democrat Party here advocates it. Oh, it's a right, sure. Green energy. Germany and the UK dumped fossil fuels for green energy, nearly froze to death, and their prices tripled. Vast entitlement programs. That's the catalyst for most of this mass migration all over Europe. I mean, it happened here, too. Look, these fools in the towers over there in the UK Parliament see that as, oh, we're tolerant, while these migrants view it as conquering. And these native people of all these countries that are being overwhelmed are pushed aside, even raped, harassed, oppressed, and then arrested for calling it out. Europe is a barometer of what our modern left is trying to bring here. It's not a theory. It's a warning.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.